Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth
on Now You Know.
FUD.
Yes, this stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And it is something that has just constantly been a part of Tesla's life.
Well, Jesse, you should feel that way because Kalman Isaacs has shorted Tesla 3,000 shares and he's now suing Tesla.
Okay.
On August 10th, he filed a class action lawsuit arguing that Musk's tweets had constituted securities fraud, saying Musk's tweets were false and misleading, and together with Tesla's failure to correct them, amounted to a nuclear attack designed to completely decimate short sellers.
Okay. I didn't know that there was protection, like special protections for short sellers.
Well, there should be.
Okay. This, by the way, makes national headlines, of course. Because, right. I mean, we can't just have a rational conversation about Tesla that doesn't involve wild speculation.
I think we should play this guy, because he kind of sums it up. Go ahead, play that.
I got to give Jim Chanos credit because, a lot of us like to root with Mr. Musk, and when he comes out there and cheerleads the stock and has his reality distortion field working, you can see the stock get a noticeable bump. However, this appears to be a no-brainer in that nobody with a brain cell would want to put these two together.
What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the thing that I'm...
Or wait, how about this guy?
Yeah.
So as much as you admire Elon Musk and you love the car and you love the idea of sustainable transit, it's a really, really tough situation to be an investor here with a straight face. I just don't know how you do it.
All right, what do you think of that?
Yeah, does that sound familiar?
It sounded actually really familiar.
Yeah.
It seemed like I'd already seen that before.
That's because that's something that we heard 2 years ago, because it's exactly what we heard 2 years ago.
Wait, 2 years ago? That's when Tesla was going through the Solar City acquisition.
Right, and we heard the exact same stuff. People were saying that Tesla was going to go out of business.
So what you're saying here is that these shorts, they have a playbook that they use every time they want to discredit Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just necessarily shorts. It's the FUD police. It's the FUD ruckers. It's the...
Okay, so it's big oil.
It's the mother fudders. It's...
right, so I mean, it's people who have some vested interest in making sure that Tesla does not succeed. I mean, who could that possibly be?
Right. I mean, who would be an enemy of Elon?
Let's just talk about that for a second here, because I think when we talk about big oil, everyone keeps going like,
why does big oil care? They've got plenty of money.
Right.
Here's why they care.
Yeah.
Their days are numbered. Completely. You may not realize it. The average person out there may not realize it, but they actually do realize it. Right. They're not that stupid. That's why they've been able to stay in power for so long.
When all of our cars are electric, they will be penniless.
Right.
They will not be, I'm sure they have savings accounts, but they're not going to be reaping in the trillions of dollars a year that they are.
$5 trillion a year just for the top 50 companies.
It's insane. It's honestly
anything they can do,
infuriating, right?
Anything they can do to slow that down, and it doesn't matter if it's a year or 2 years. It's worth it.
Is billions upon billions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars, which is just an unfathomable amount of money.
So imagine this for a second.
Yeah.
If you are making trillions of dollars a year, you're going to have a whole department who's willing to do FUD. Right. It's totally worth it. It's part of your strategy for saying, just like you have an advertising department, you got an accounting department, and you got Cheryl down there in marketing. You've definitely got Dave in FUD.
It's like essentially it's PR, public relations, or propaganda.
Right.
They just do not want to see Tesla succeed, because when Tesla succeeds is the day that big oil does not.
We just wanted to point this out, that we have proof that this is what they're doing, because we went back 2 years to the Solar City acquisition, and when they pulled out the same playbook, because, perfect opportunity, they're doing something that we can...
doing something.
So, I mean... Right now, we've got Alex Sherman, who's a reporter for CNBC. Mm-hmm. We've got James Stewart, who is a New York Times columnist, and they're willing to come on TV with basically no more information than you or I have, because they basically admitted it on their columns, and they say,
I don't know. Look, I think it's a long shot, but I'm just saying I don't know all the facts, and until I do, I'm not willing to say, he's guilty, but it doesn't look good.
So, I mean, James Stewart, a New York Times columnist, comes on, basically says he doesn't have any facts, and then he ends by saying it doesn't look good for Tesla.
Based on no evidence.
The other part that they keep ignoring is, it's not like Elon woke up one morning and said, you know what, I'm just going to tweet this out, that I'm going to take Tesla private at 420, funding secured. This was planned months ago.
Right, you can't just secure funding in like a morning.
No. And he had already tweeted 6 weeks ago that he was going to do this. So obviously he had the play running.
Right.
And so this was already talked about with board members, with legal counsel. I mean, he's not an idiot.
Right.
He's a billionaire for a reason.
Exactly what he's doing. I want to talk about another point. These FUD schmuckers. FUD schmuckers? That these FUD schmuckers keep coming out with. That Elon needs $70 billion to buy out the company, plus all of the debt. So let's first talk about that first point, the $70 billion. I own Tesla stock. And when they go private, I'm not going to cash out because that's what I'm going to retire
So that
on.
means
that's how I'm going to buy my ticket to Mars.
That means that Elon doesn't have to pay for those shares.
Right. Oh,
And guess what?
Right.
I'm also not going to cash out.
Right.
So Elon doesn't have to pay for my shares.
Right. Now, that's not $70 billion worth, but there are a lot of people who are very long on Tesla.
And get this.
Yeah.
Anyone who's not going to do that, anyone who's like,
Well, you know what? Buy me out.
yeah.
Elon doesn't have to buy them out. You know why? Because on that day when they want to sell their shares for $420, guess who else is going to be willing to pay $420 for those shares?
Who?
Lots of other people.
Right.
Including me.
Yeah.
Including you.
Right.
Including lots of us. Because a lot of us want to go private with Elon, which means that there may be a few shares that don't get bought.
Right.
But that's the only ones he'll have to pay for.
Right.
The rest are paid for.
So he doesn't need $70 billion.
And then other people will say, well, okay, what about the debt? What about the billions of dollars of debt? Well, here's another point. First of all, anybody who's holding Tesla debt can go into the private company still holding the debt if they want to.
Right.
So it's very likely that those banks and those debt holders will just go, sure, we'll come along with you, Elon, and you can count on us being there with you.
Right. Because, I mean, that's what they were going to do anyway as a public company, and now being private is not that different.
No. In fact, it's better in many ways.
Yeah.
So it's very likely that he can enter being a private company having spent not one penny. I know that sounds absurd, but think about it for a second.
Right.
As long as all of us go with him, that's what it'll cost him.
Right. This is why this deal is so genius.
And it could never cost $70 billion. You know why? We'd all have to say, we're not going with you, Elon.
Right.
Buy all of us out.
Right.
And we're not doing that.
Right.
Because let me just ask you, how many of you voted to buy Solar City? More than 2/3 of you did.
Right.
That means that very likely more than 2/3 of you are going to go with him to go into a private company.
Right.
So all of these people on these shows who are saying he needs $70 billion of funding and where's he going to get it, they're all idiots or they're following the playbook.
Right. It's a playbook. We've seen it over and over again. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what Elon says. It doesn't matter what he does. There will always be these people saying, oh, it doesn't look good for Tesla right now. I say that it's at least at a 160, even when it's at freaking $340 a share. Like, what are you, insane?
You know what? To prove our point, let's just go back in time a little bit here, shall we? Let's go to Craig Johnson from Piper Jaffray.
Despite the 8 and change percent sell-off that you've seen earlier today, now 10%, you've taken out key support at the May lows of 2016 at around 204. Your next support is going to come in about 180. After that, it's really toward the lower end of this downward trending price channel that you see on the weekly chart, which is probably around 160, 165. So the risk to reward on the charts clearly are not favorable, and that's in sync with what you're hearing about on the fundamental side. So more downside yet to come.
So he claimed the stock was going to be at 165.
Right.
Where did the stock go?
Let's see. Okay, we're just going to follow this line here. It goes way up.
But you know what? That's just one person. Let's go to Eddie Elfenbein from Crossing Wall Street.
And I have to agree. I think this is a terrible deal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Has it failed?
But you know what? That's not fair. That's just two people, Jesse.
Right, yeah,
Let's
you're right.
go to Herb Greenberg from Pacific Square Research.
This is a subsidized company, and look at the free cash flow.
He says it's just a subsidized company.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
But you know what? That's just three people. Let's do another one. How about this guy from Weiss?
I'm surprised stock's even at 195. So just wait until the lawsuits start coming. This is just a textbook case of poor corporate governance.
Or how about John Murphy of Bank of America?
Merrill Lynch slashed its price forecast on Tesla shares on Tuesday, saying that Tesla's acquisition of SolarCity caused the company's, quote, long-term viability to be at risk. The firm believes that the stock will be cut almost in half over the next year due to positive earnings and cash flow being more elusive. Research analyst John Murphy says he sees the electric car maker's stock falling to $165, which is a 46% drop from Monday when the stock closed at just over $308.
He cut Tesla to $165 a share in April of 2017.
Right. If you bought when he told you to sell, you'd be frickin' rich right now.
Exactly.
He's the opposite of right, which is wrong.
Can I just remind you that all we were talking about 2 years ago, for months, was that buying SolarCity was the worst business decision ever, that it was just going to bankrupt Tesla because all the debt they were taking on, and how is it possibly worth it? Guess what we're hearing about that today?
Can you hear anything? Can you hear the crickets? Nothing. You don't hear anything but the crickets.
Do you know why? Because they were following a playbook. And the playbook lasts for a few plays, and then the game is over.
Right.
And then they move on to something else.
The next thing, exactly.
This is the next thing.
Right.
And guess what? In a couple of years, will we be talking about this? No.
Right.
Because that's all they've got. They've got you right now for these next few days. And you know what they've done?
Right. Yes.
You know what they've done to you? The stock should be trading at 418, 419, somewhere right around 420.
Right. Because you're going to make money.
But you know where it's trading? Down near 350. You know why? Because they've scared a lot of you.
They've scared people. I mean, it's so easy for them to go on and just say, this is bad. It's bad news. I don't like it, Joe. Joe, this is going to be really bad. There's going to be all sorts of, SEC is going to be involved. We're going to be seeing all sorts of lawsuits, blah, 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 blah. And, people will listen to them because they tune into the news and they believe it.
And so many of these stories, all these stories really have no news attached to them. Right. They're just conjecture.
Right.
They don't know.
There is no hard evidence. There's no hard data. It's not like, I just got off the phone with the guy from the SEC and he says that Tesla's in the biggest trouble he's ever seen in his whole life. He just sent over 14... He sent me a whole binder full of information. I'm just flipping through it now. Oh my goodness, Todd, this is unbelievable. He is in so much trouble.
Yeah, you know why you're not hearing that?
They don't have anything.
They don't have anything.
They don't have binders of information.
No,
They've
they're
got
idiots.
Nothing.
These are the same idiots who said that the stock was going to go down to 165.
Right. When did that ever happen?
Yeah. What do you get for betting against Elon?
Right.
You get a whole lot of shorts.
Right. You get
sent
nothing.
To you. So I guess what we're trying to say is shut off your CNBC. Stop reading all the crap until there's actually some hard news to read about.
Right.
Because all of it is just conjecture designed to get you to worry.
And it is so short-sighted. It is so this moment, right now. Think about right now. Don't look over there. Don't look over there. Don't think about the future. Think about right now. Scary, 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 scary.
Let's talk about
the future. I want to talk about the future because that is all that we have in this world is the future. Okay, you can't live in the present forever. It is continuing to update itself.
You know what keeps you from looking into the future, I think, is all of this now, watching these 24-hour news programs, because it keeps your brain focused on just, I have to look at just what's happening right now. Yeah, let's think about some of the big companies that, laid the railroads in America, right? Do you think that when they were laying the railroads, people were talking about what was happening that quarter?
Yeah. I can't believe how much cash you burned building all those railroads. What are you thinking? Look at all this money you're just burning away. You're throwing away all this money.
You're building rails into the middle of nowhere?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
The long-term thinking made a whole lot of sense.
Right.
I'll build these railroads, I'll own them for hundreds of years, and then cities will pop up and I'll make a fortune. Right. And my family will make a fortune. And after I'm long gone, it'll have benefited society.
Right.
That is long-term thinking.
Right.
Around the 80s, I remember what started to happen was shareholders started to demand that they get their value out of a company. And so they started to demand that their CEOs start every quarter to look at the numbers and give them back what they deserve.
Where's my money?
I'm the shareholder.
Right.
It's great to be a shareholder. The whole point of being a shareholder in a company, I thought, was to have a long-term vision to hold that stock for a long time. But in the 80s, what started to happen was you got these greedy people who wanted to get in and out of a stock, move around every week, every day.
Right.
And you started to get day traders. In fact, it's become a term, right? There are people who are day traders and they want to make money today. Well, the problem with that is if you start thinking that way as a company, you stop your long-term thinking and you just start thinking about how do I do things this quarter to make my shareholders happy. And if you do that,
you not make
you run your company into the ground.
Right.
And let's talk about what's going to happen to our planet in the next century.
Right.
It's going to heat up so much that the planet that I'm handing over to Jesse is not the same planet that I got.
Right.
It's going to be a planet that has a lot of things going wrong for it. It seems like a lot of people in my generation are going, well, I don't know, there's nothing I can do about it. Sorry, kid. Too bad.
Right. And there's a lot of people in my generation who are like, there's nothing I can do. I've been handed a bad deck.
But you know what I think back to is the greatest generation, that generation that fought World War II to stop tyranny, to stop the world from being taken over by dictators, and they had to sacrifice. Many of them sacrificed their lives.
Right. They sacrificed their lives. And, the people who didn't, even the people who didn't do the fighting, there was rationing of everything you could possibly imagine.
Right. Even the people back home sacrificed to make sure that they could give to the soldiers to fight the battles, right?
I mean, today we can't even imagine sacrificing our Wi-Fi for like 3 hours.
Right. And they sacrificed for years. And what did we get? We got a stop to tyranny.
Right.
And we look back and we call them the greatest generation. What's going to happen to my generation in 100 years? What are they going to call our generation? I think they're going to call them the worst generation. Do you know why? Because we have not stopped the tyranny that is global climate change.
Right.
We have let it happen. We've made no sacrifice whatsoever. I don't want to give my coffee. I don't want to give up my big SUV that burns a lot of gas. Nothing. If we start sacrificing and if we start making a difference, you know what we're going to be called? Some kind of terrific generation.
Right.
For making the sacrifices that are going to keep Jesse's kids from having a planet that's too hot to live on.
Right. So about 100 years ago, we started heading on this path. We started burning fossil fuels in order to do all sorts of work.
Yeah, the Industrial Revolution.
Right. So we headed in that direction, and we haven't really deviated from it much. You know, we've been maybe making cars slightly more efficient, but other than that, we've just been cruising down this lane. We're in trouble. This does not end well for us. This ends in an uninhabitable Earth.
Right.
Of just places that you can go outside and walk around and enjoy the fresh air will soon just be so hot that you will not be able to go outside without risk of heat stroke and death.
And in fact, there's cultures in Central America now that can't farm anymore because it's so hot and humid that they get kidney failure. About 20% of the population already is getting kidney failure just by doing what they normally did a couple generations ago.
Right. I mean, there's physical things in our body. It's like, you know, oh, what, you can't take the heat? It's like, no, I physically can't because my body just can't dissipate this heat from my body because it's so hot out. You know, we've headed down this path for over 100 years, and we need to bushwhack our way back to a path where we can continue to live on this planet and not need to live in like underground bunkers and stuff like that.
That's a really good point. We're not at a crossroads. We're beyond that
well
crossroads.
Past the
we
crossroads.
have to get back over to the correct road.
Right. There is no like easy street to get back to Pleasantville.
And
we have to really cut through some dense brush.
And the bushwhacking you're talking about is the sacrifice.
Right. It is
the giving up of things to get back to where we should be.
Right. I mean, there is wonderful technology. There is Tesla. I mean, what an amazing
and
thing.
that's kind of the good point here,
right.
Is that in terms of transportation, there's no sacrifice at all.
Right. We can all move to EVs. It will all benefit from it.
Right.
But yeah, that is not the only thing. You know, we have to move all of our energy generation to renewable sources, and then we need to start focusing on things that also cause CO2 emissions, like what we eat, and you know, how we take care of the world. You know, we can't just keep chopping down rainforests. We need to go and plant forests.
Right.
You know, as China has been doing, a Germany's sized forest. We need to be doing that kind of thing all the time. We need to be coming out with technologies that will not only, you know, reduce our CO2 emissions, but undo our CO2 emissions, take CO2 out of the atmosphere, turn it into something else, you know, whether it's, you know, some kind of a plastic that you make from the air. I mean, trees, for example, are made out of air. You know, we can do that. We can take the carbon dioxide out of the air and store it. We need to do that. We need to come out with solutions. And it won't be easy. It will cost money, you know, but we need to do that or we are in huge, huge trouble.
But to come back to our original point, all this FUD, it's to keep your eye off of the real ball, the real ball that we need to be focusing on. And instead, they're focusing your eye on, oh, is he going to be brought on charges? Is he going to be lawsuits? We need to be focusing on where Tesla is going, because Tesla's mission is not to make money.
Right.
Tesla's mission is to get us to a sustainable energy future as quickly as possible.
Right. And that is something that they have been doing. And that
doing
is
a great job
that
of.
Going private is all about. We just so frustrated by all of this FUD. We are so looking forward to when Tesla is private, and the news stories that come out for Tesla are, oh my goodness, I didn't realize 10 things you didn't know that the Tesla Model 3 can do. You know, the things that should be coming out.
And the thing is, we're going to be proven right again, because just like we reported to you about Solar City and that acquisition and how it wasn't a bad idea.
Right.
We were right about that. We're going to be right about Tesla going private. It's a smart move, and it's not going to be a big problem at all. It's going to make the company super profitable. It's going to make the company get to our sustainable future faster. So Turn off your CNBCs. Turn off your Bloombergs.
Go outside. Enjoy it while you still can.
That's right.
Thank you for watching this episode of In Depth. We hope you enjoyed it. Now you know.